Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Tom Olson. Thanks for being on the show, Tom.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Tom is the founder and president of the Olson Group, Good Success, and the Good Success Mastermind, a leadership group focused on helping real estate investors and small business owners refine their processes and change their thinking in order to build up their businesses while adding value to others' lives. He has been involved in more than 1,000 real estate transactions and 500 rehabs. And his company operates a large-scale turnkey property management system in addition to investing in many other aspects of the industry. So, Tom, I'm really looking forward to getting into this, the good success and what that means. But first, tell the listeners a little more about who you are, maybe where you're located, and let's get into this topic.
Absolutely. So I am in Northwest Indiana, and when most people hear the word Indiana, they automatically assume Indianapolis, and I'm about 3 hours from Indianapolis, so don't think that. I'm right outside Chicago, and in fact, my office is closer to downtown Chicago than either airport in Chicago. So I am right outside Chicago, which gives me a strategic advantage. Illinois has super high taxes. Indiana is more stable. Cook County isn't called Crook County for no reason at all. So Indiana is much more landlord friendly as well when you're talking about different, avenues of investing. But we're right here in Northwest Indiana, and I have this crazy dream to flip the entire city of Gary, Indiana, which has been a place that has kind of been forgotten about. But it's also a place that's strategically located in an amazing place. And I think down the road, people are going to really start flocking to that city.
Well, Tom, obviously, you've had lots of success in real estate, 1,000 real estate transactions, 500 rehabs. I mean, you're not brand new to this industry by no means. But I'd like to, learn, what this good success model is and what that means. And then let's dive into a little bit of that.
Sure. So before we go into that, Olson Group is a company that builds rental portfolios for investors.
Okay.
And then Good Success is kind of an education company because I'm really passionate. I go to a lot of seminars, I speak, I've written some books, and I talk to a lot of people. And what I find is that everybody's trying to teach tricks. Everybody's trying to teach if you just follow my 3-step course, or if you just the first 7 people to the back of the room, and there's all these gurus out there that are just kind of trying to, honestly, in my opinion, I think most of the marketing to this group is a little deceptive. And to me, I kind of hate it. And I see so many people going down this trail, and I think there's a much larger picture that I think people must run their ideas and run their decisions through. And it's a bigger filter, in my opinion. And that's what I think about when I think about Good Success. So Good Success, we're a very Christian organization. We run prayer meetings every Monday morning in our business. And I think it's one of the biggest things that we've done in our business that I would say directly has actually given to the bottom line and given to us having a good name but Good Success comes from Joshua 1:8, and it kind of talks about how you would actually have the right kind of success. And for me, success is talked about a lot in the world, and I've heard success defined as doing what I want, when I want, with who I want, whenever I want, for as long as I want. But every time I hear that, there's a part of me that just cringes. I just say, oh my word, how in the world can you think that doing what you want, when you want, with who you want is what success is really defined as? Because, what creates success has nothing to do with what you want. What real good success is, the right kind of success, is the right person doing the right thing for the right reason with the right people for the right amount of time. And a lot of times what the right thing is to do is not what you want to do. And everybody that's listening out there right now knows that's the case. What I want to do at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. is not go to the gym, but that's probably the right thing to do in the morning. What I want to do at lunchtime or at dinner time is take that extra piece of cake or drink that extra drink. But you know what? That's probably not the right thing to do. So, I know I get a little passionate about this, but I really believe in this. And I really believe that people should be focusing on the bigger picture, the 200-year picture, and maybe even eternity picture, instead of just like the here and the now, the what I want right now, right here today.
I couldn't agree with you more because I mean, even personally, I've seen it in my life, all the time and in others, but it's hard to see past Friday for one, but then even, it's hard to see past next month, and hard to see past, that. And we get caught up in the right here, right now, just like you were saying, doing what I want, where I want. Like that's how we've the society tries to train us to think that way. It seems, but that may not be the right way. And I'm hoping you will get into that a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I can't even tell you how many times it's come across my desk since I've clearly defined good success as that, the right person doing the right thing for the right reason with the right people for the right amount of time, where like it just becomes more and more obvious. Even when you're training your kids and when you're talking about things with your kids, but especially with real estate, a lot of times in real estate, there's the social conscience side of this. And even if you look at, I'm actually writing an article right now that's going to go out in January, I think, Realty Magazine. And it basically talks about since 1990, even in the stock market, since they've been tracking social conscience investments, the social conscience investments in the stock market has even outperformed the regular Dow Jones. So in real estate, it's even more of a way to think. And I think that, a lot of times, like for instance, Gary, Indiana is one of these places that you have to have a social aspect of your investing. You have to see the much bigger picture, and you have to see the opportunity that most people haven't seen for the last 10 years in order to be able to be willing to go into an area like that first and be that first in. But normally it's always the first in that makes all the money on the back end. I believe you reap what you sow, and being unselfish up front and giving that opportunity first and going after the things that other people aren't willing to go after always ends up reaping way more benefit than what being selfish reaps.
Yeah. And that's hard to see in yourself, isn't it? Like you're being selfish and seeing that big picture. And like you're talking about, or being selfish up front and seeing the long picture. I just can't say that enough. It's just having that conversation with somebody just the other day. And it was a book also that I was reading. That's what we were talking about. And it was Brian Tracy, No Excuses. And he even talked about how, just like the most successful people or the majority of successful people think long-term. They just think long term. They're thinking 10 years from now. They're thinking 20 years from now. They're thinking even much longer, than that. Even to their children when their children reach adult age and things like that. Much more than they're thinking about. The worldly success of tomorrow or the weekend or next year. But how did you develop that type of mindset? Because I know that's not what the majority of people would promote or would say, but I couldn't agree with you more. And I just wonder, like, how do we explain that in a way so it's attractive and other people, can understand this good success and why it's important?
That's actually something I'm actually kind of going through right now and trying to figure that out. If I knew the answer to that, the problem is I'm telling people what they need to hear and not necessarily what they want to hear. Marketing companies set up, when you go to a marketing company, you set up a marketing plan, it's all about those things, those triggers, and that whole sales process to get somebody else to take money out of their pocket and put it in yours. And the problem is it's not necessarily what they need. It's what like they think they want or what you can convince them that they need. And like, I almost rebel against that. I'm like, oh my goodness, like I want to be so upfront with you. And when I talk to an investor that's going to buy one of my rental properties, I am trying to give them the worst case scenario that could possibly happen before they even buy the property. When somebody loans me money, like I am going to the worst case scenario first. And, to me, I think that it's a lot longer relationship that way because, hey, I've told them up front, this is what's probably going to happen. And I think that too many times, I don't care if it's in syndications or single family or however you do it, I don't think too many people are talking about the risks associated with real estate as much as they're talking about all the things that could possibly happen. The performa sounds nice and juicy and sexy, but at the end of the day, like, what are the things that could really derail this? And I think that that's way more important. And if I can understand those risks, I might be willing to go through those risks. And if I'm not understanding, well, guess what? A confused mind always says no. And so, and I don't know, that's just one of the things that I see that I think might be able to help your listeners. And I think that everybody should be thinking about worst case scenario first. And real estate investors go through this big risk. Like I'm with a leadership circle that's actually going to Washington 2 or 3 times a year. And we actually talk to senators, and we actually are right there in Congress talking with congressmen and, trying to tell them, hey, this is what Dodd-Frank has done to investors. This is what, if you create this 25% flipping tax that Bernie Sanders wants to create. Oh my goodness. Like, I was just actually at another meeting where Barney Frank actually spoke, and he actually made fun of Bernie Sanders. This is a funny story. He's like, Barney Sanders doesn't really have a good batting average when it comes to getting laws passed. So think about that. It was actually kind of really funny coming from Bernie Frank. But he wants to pass this 25% flippers tax. Well, what's that going to do? Like, that's a major thing that's not going to help affordable housing. That's actually going to probably hurt the affordable housing industry. So, when we're going through and we're going and talking with people, trying to go and talk about worst case scenarios, I think is very important in real estate, especially because it's a capital intensive business.
Talking about worst case scenarios. I know you were talking about telling others the risks and what might derail it, derail the plan. It is so important. But I mean, it's hard to just come out and tell an investor that, that the ultimate risk is that you could lose all your money, right? I mean, that's not what you want to tell somebody that you're hoping that will do business with you, right? But I couldn't agree with you more though when you said that there's many of them are going to be willing to take that risk anyway, and it's ultimately those that are going to like stick with you. I feel like for the long haul. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think it creates a much more trusting relationship up front. And if I'm on the other side and I'm the money investor, I'm asking those questions anyways. So like, I just am trying to treat my investors the way that I would want to be treated if I was on the other side.
So you had mentioned like everyone's trying to teach tricks and, this 3-step program and things like that. Can you elaborate a little bit on like when you're speaking, like what are you teaching, outside of, outside of the 3-step program, what is it that you're teaching?
Well, I think that our real estate businesses ought to all have like a business plan, right? We ought to, I'm very integrated into EOS, Traction, the Entrepreneur Operating System. All 7 of my businesses have been implemented with that system, and we run it like we run our level 10 meetings every week. We do our quarterly, everything is run with that. But I think there's a bigger thing that we need to think about, and I think it's our life's purpose and it's our life's plan. And how does that business fit into that life? And, I read an amazing book. It's called What Matters Most. And it's a pretty old book. And I think it's actually on Audible. So you can't get it on Audible if you're an Audible listener, but it talks about like writing down all of your responsibilities in your entire life, not just the business responsibilities, but all of your roles and responsibilities. And then taking to pen and paper and writing which one trumps the other one. So for me, for instance, like I'm a Christian first. I want to be number 1, I'm a Christian. Number 2, I'm a spouse. I'm a husband to my wife who've been married for 22 years. Number 3, I'm a father to my 3 children. And then number 4, I'm a business owner. So what defines me, in my opinion, needs to be defined, and I need to put those in priorities. So I've done a lot of mentoring over the years, and I was getting to the point at one point in my life where I was charging people a lot of money, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? It's taking me 2-3 months to get to anything where I feel like I'm really making a difference financially or anything in their life. So I actually wrote this 30 Days to Good Success workbook. It's about 160 pages. And it actually starts, all it is 30 questions for you to ask yourself. And it gives you some context for each question. And I've had a lot of mentors that are mentoring other people use this book as kind of like a template for them to be able to mentor people. Because when we're mentoring people, we're trying to just fix those tricks. We're trying to just fix all these surface issues. But what we really need to figure out is, where are they really at? What I find is too many times people create a plan and they want to get from New York City to LA, but they want to think they're cool. They want to tell everybody how awesome they are. And they basically tell everybody, I'm in Vegas. So in a way, they think they're almost there. They think they just got to get over this hump. The problem is they're in New York City, and they haven't been honest enough with themselves in order to be able to create the proper plan to get from point A to point B, because they won't be honest with themselves of where they're actually at today. And that's what this book does. That's what this workbook will do. It'll do it for you. It'll do it for you if you're mentoring other people as well, and say, hey, like, ask yourself these questions. Where are you at really financially? Do you have budgets created? Do you have a financial freedom plan? What is that plan, and how are you creating that? And then it gets into some deeper issues and a lot of things that affect our lives that we won't admit, like, hey, who has wronged me that I need to forgive? Or, things like that, that kind of like hit that emotional button that we've got to get over. We've got to move forward and leave that stuff in the past. So that's kind of what I guess that's what I mean. I think that people need to be looking at it in a much larger picture, in a whole lifetime picture. And why are you actually created? Why were you created for this lifetime? And who were you placed on this earth to serve?
Love that. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you went back to that book, What Matters Most. Who's the author of that?
I had it written down. I can get that to you.
That's all right.
It's like William Hiram or something like that.
Yeah, we can find it. No, I just wondered. But you talked about writing down all of your responsibilities in your entire life. I thought, well, that would take some time.
Oh, yes.
To really think through that and list that out and really exhaust that. But I think that could really open your mind to lots of things. Like, yeah,
it's Hiram Smith is the author of that book. But yes, absolutely. And what we don't realize is sometimes we take on way too much, and we shouldn't be taking on all these responsibilities. And every new responsibility or role that we put in our life, we should have a filter of, should I take this on or not? Can I handle this financially? Do I have the time and the capacity? Is this in my purpose? Is it even in my purpose? Do I have the skills to be able to implement this? And am I okay emotionally or mentally to be able to handle this as well? So there's some filters that we really should use, and far too often I just see people saying yes to everything. And what they don't realize is by saying yes to everything, they're saying no to the most important things in their life.
Wow. Yeah. And what I was thinking about that list, I thought, I bet if we listed that out, and I don't know how many were on your list, like approximately, I don't even know how many would be on there, like 100, 200?
No, honestly, I didn't really have that many. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, really, I probably had like 20.
Okay.
Even 20 might be too many for some people.
If there were 20, I bet it would be like the ones between the 8th and the 15th one that are probably taking up most of our time.
Yes, that's the problem. Like, I can tell you what your priorities really are by looking at your checkbook and looking at your schedule. Where you spend your time and where you spend your money, it will tell me what you really prioritize. And what most people will find out is if they prioritize their roles and their responsibilities, and then they look at their time and their checkbook, they're probably way out of whack.
And I would say, like, personally, I know over the years I get caught up in like, well, it's only going to be for this amount of time. Like, I've got to work all these hours, and it's not going to be forever. How do you combat that?
I get it. And I think that there is short-term pain for long-term sacrifice. I believe in that, because there is like the process of you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
But, just like I just challenged somebody in my mastermind, just like we have the Good Success Mastermind. I just challenged somebody with that, where he said that his life's purpose, he really thought that he was supposed to be trying to help educate people in Africa and these kids that have no way out and they have no way to get any education. And I was like, well, why aren't you doing that now? What is holding you back to doing that now? And he's like, well, I think I'd like to make a little bit more money, and I'd like to have a little bit more passive income. I'm like, all right. That's not a good enough excuse. Like, you should be able to do something now towards that. If that's the whole reason why you exist and why you're in this life, like, you've got to start somewhere. Make a trip. Like, call somebody that's over there and see what you can do to help. But if that's the reason why you're here on this earth, you have got to stop thinking that, like, I just need a little bit more. It's like saying I'll get married when I have enough money, or I'll have kids when I have enough money. Like, you will never get married then, and you will never have kids if you wait until you think you have enough money or you think that you're ready.
We could stop right there. That's such good advice, right? No, that's great. That's great stuff. And because I see it, I've seen it in myself and so many other people as well. Because you think, okay, when I get to this spot, but we never reach that spot.
You
You
got
know,
it.
it
It's a
just
journey.
going. Yeah, it just keeps going. There's always that next thing. But Tom, this has been a great discussion, and I just think it's so important for anybody that's an entrepreneur. For anyone, but especially when you're like really driven and you're always pushing towards that next goal. It's so easy to get caught up in the day to day, and I myself am as guilty as anybody. It's like, how many calls can I get done today? How many emails can I get done? How many deals can we do? All those things that everybody in the real estate business are trying to do, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, I started this so I could spend more time with the family, and I've missed every dinner this week with the family. So and I appreciate just the light you've brought on that. But just a few questions before we run out of time. What's been the hardest part of your real estate journey up to this point, or you can talk about even just the mindset of a good success, and either one.
No, the hardest part for me is always it's the hardest part is also the biggest leverage point. So if you were to ask me, like, what's the one thing that somebody can do right now to get better, it's the exact same thing that I think is the hardest part. So it's people.
Mm.
People are the hardest thing in this business. It's not like creating a pro forma. It's not finding a renter. None of those things are the hard part. It's the people that are the hardest part. And I guess if you're asking me, some of the hardest things in my career that I've had to go through is like have family work for you and then have to let them go, or to have a deal go bad that was within, an employee buying a property that was a high level employee that, you're supposed to make. Like when I have a deal with my own employees, I'm supposed to make like a certain amount of money, and then I end up losing like $70,000 on this one deal that this high level employee did, and like there's just no explanation for it, other than they just went crazy on the deal. So like in my opinion, that's the hardest thing about business is people. It's the hardest thing about owning rentals is that the people. But it's also the best leverage point. So if there's one thing that, an entrepreneur or somebody can do that, in my opinion, gives you the most leverage long-term, it's knowing how to, number one, know yourself. So you know what you're good at, and then know how to find really good people. So have a great process to find really good people, and then have a great process to hire really, really good people. I'm telling you, people will trump process 1,000 times out of 1,000. You have to have good people. Your processes should be built for your people, not the other way around. I think this process and all this, checklist, I think it's kind of like a buzzword right now, but I promise you, a good person will kill a good process 100 times out of 100.
Love it. That's awesome. It is. It's so difficult to find somebody that you can trust and that, you really want to be part of your team. You see this big resume, but you know what? It's just, I don't know. The entire hiring process is, we could do numerous shows just on that, but
You got it.
it is, it's so difficult. But I wanted to ask you too, has the traction and the US process helped with that? I know you talked about good people will trump processes, but how have you seen that improve the processes or the systems in your business?
I would say it's given structure. So the biggest thing that I think EOS gives is structure. I think it has some weaknesses and some holes that you need to fill in with other processes, like Scrum, for instance, has a really good process. And it's more used in marketing companies. But I think that the whole concept of Scrum should be implemented into a business that's going to implement EOS, because you might get kind of enamored by all the charts and everything the structure that you have, and you don't really understand that you still got to get stuff done. And it's more important that you actually get something done than it is to actually fill out the scorecard properly, So, I found it very helpful. I think for small businesses, it works really well, and it gives a structure to be able to operate your business on. And it at least helps you start the process of learning how to track numbers. properly. What I think people get really good at is that operational side, which is kind of like the hub of most people's business. It's the center. And then you've got sales and marketing on one end, and then you've got admin and finance on the other end of your business. I think most entrepreneurs should be spending more of their personal time outside of the operations and into that marketing aspect and into that knowing your numbers, because that's where the money's really made. And that's where you can expand your lid on going from, that's when you start talking about 10X. I mean, that's when you really, go from making, a certain dollar amount to all of a sudden the next month, next year making like 10 times that much money, when you can really understand marketing and really understand your numbers and how your numbers affect you and how to make decisions based on proper good data.
Wow. So Tom, what's been the one thing that's contributed to your success?
The one thing I would probably say, people. and actually, like, if I have to give praise, the one thing is God. The one thing is prayer. The one thing is like knowing where my place is on this earth. And again, I define my success way different than other people define it. Like, I don't really, yes, it's great to have money in the bank. Yes, it's great to have a house and great to have all these assets giving us passive income. It's awesome. But at the end of the day, my real security comes with my Lord and Savior. So, like, in my opinion, that's really where I define my success. So, but after God, like, I think it's people, like, so I want to be a conduit of what he's given me every day. And I want to go find somebody to encourage and support. And if I can do that every day, I feel like my life is a success.
Wow. That's awesome. And tell me how you like to give back.
Oh my goodness. We have so many different ways. We actually have a giving board right outside the studio right here, where every single month we have Employee of the Month here. I've got 28 employees, and every single month we give out Employee of the Month, and the employee gets to choose either a charity or a family or something that they get to give to. And so it's really great to not just like have my things that I give, but also let the people that work for me be able to choose something because they won Employee of the Month. Our Good Success Mastermind just did this on November 13th, where we do every year we go out into the community, one of the masterminds, and we called it Make Your Day Wednesday, but it was actually also World Kindness Day. And we took 3 groups out, and each had $1,000, and they went out and tried to find people to be kind to. And it was such a good time. We even had a pastor from Chicago come in called Pastor Brooks, who was the crazy guy that was on the roof for 94 days in Chicago a couple of years ago, and talked about Project Hood and what he's doing on the south side of Chicago. And we gave him a check for $1,000. And then we also helped a woman's home that helps pregnant women or people that just had a baby, and the women just have nowhere to go. And we help them with software and with iPads to be able to help them learn how to find a job, how to create a resume, all that kind of good stuff. We went to a nursing home, and then we also went to a school. But honestly, like, there's just so many things. Like, I love giving to missionaries. One of my great friends owns Christian Radio International, and they go around the whole world and put radio stations in place that you wouldn't even believe, like Baghdad, Iraq, and in China, and like literally places that you wouldn't believe. And I love supporting, missions like that. And honestly, like, I believe my entire mission to flip the entire city of Gary, Indiana is a mission in itself, and it is a way to be able to give back to the community. I have these 2 humongous, gigantic goals in my life. One is to give away $1 billion, and one is to flip the city of Gary, Indiana. And I do track that giving from all my companies. Something that we're doing this year is Community Go-Giver event, which we do every year, where we bring people into our office and show them the houses that we're doing here in Gary. But also, all of the speakers are all community go-givers, or we're talking about how to use real estate to have a positive impact on your community. And at that event, all the people that pay to come to the actual event, we're actually going to be giving away that money to the community go-givers on that day. So we're trying to raise $30,000 during that weekend for community go-givers. And then we're using sponsorship money to actually pay for the event and to pay for the thing to actually happen. So, I mean, how do I like to give? Any way I can possibly give. And I really like, it's easy for me to give. And I know that that's not the case for everybody, but I could probably get in trouble giving too much if my wife, if I wasn't married to my wife, and if I didn't have other people in my business saying, we gotta be careful about that. So any possible way I can. And I want to encourage others to be a giver and, to work to have to give and to have that mindset, to be the conduit, not a bucket. And, even this speech right now, or even what we're doing right now in this podcast, I believe is trying to give encouragement and challenging other people to be givers as well.
That's incredible, Tom. I appreciate your heart, your desire to give. That's definitely something from the Lord, no doubt about it. And I'm pleased that to meet you and get to know that about you. Tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Absolutely. I'm one of these crazy people that believe if the more I give out my cell phone, the less people call me. So I don't mind giving out my cell phone, 219-742-7957, or you can find us at goodsuccess.com. We also have the Good Success podcast, which is about 200 episodes there. Goodsuccess.com/mastermind, or the communitygogiver.com as well is another way to get a hold of us. If you're interested in us building rental portfolios for you, it's buyolsongroup.com. That's BUYOLSON group, GROUP.com. And those are ways to find us, to get a hold of us.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by Life Bridge Capital. Life Bridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. Life Bridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.